Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Samskara yatra vichina. Samskara yatra vichina. Sadvijojo jagadayam. Sadvijojo jagadayam. Idyadhyayana danani. Idyadhyayana danani. Vihitani dvijatmanam. Vihitani dvijatmanam. Janma karma vadattanam. Janma karma vadattanam. Kriyascha shrama chodita. Kriyascha shrama chodita. Samskara yatra vichina. Sadvijojo jagadayam. Ijadayana danani. Vihitani dvijanmanam. Janma karma vadatanam. Kriyascha shrama chodita. Synonyms: samskara, reformatory process. Yatra, wherein. Avichina, without interruption. Saha, such a person. Dvijaha, twice born. Ajaha, Lord Brahma. Jagada, sanctioned. Yam, who. Idya, worshipping. Adhyayana, studies of the Vedas. Dhanani, and charity. Vihitani, prescribed. Dvijanmanam, of persons who are called twice born. Janma, by birth. Karma, and activities. Avadatanam, who are purified. Kriya, activities. Cha, also. Ashrama chodita, recommended for the 4 ashramas. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Those who have been reformed by the Garbhadana ceremony and other prescribed reformatory methods performed with Vedic mantras and without interruption, and who have been approved by Lord Brahma, are Dvijas, or twice born. Such Brahmanas, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas purified by their family traditions and by their behavior should worship the Lord, study the Vedas and give charity. In this system, they should follow the principles of the 4 ashramas: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. Purport: after giving a general list of 30 qualifications for one's behavior, Narada Muni now describes the principles of the 4 varnas and 4 ashramas. A human being must be trained in the above mentioned 30 qualities, otherwise he is not even a human being. Then, among such qualified persons, the Varnashram process should be introduced. In the Varnashram system, the first ceremony for purification is Garbhadan, which is performed with mantras at the time of sex for procreating a good child. One who uses sex life not for sensual pleasures but only to beget children according to the reformatory method is also accepted as a brahmachari. One should not waste semen on sensual pleasure, violating the principles of Vedic life. Restraint in sex is possible, however, only when the populace is trained in the above-mentioned 30 qualities. Otherwise, it is not possible. Even if one is born in a family of Dvijas or twice born, if they have not followed the reformatory process, he is called a Dvija Bandhu, not one of the twice born, but a friend of the twice born. The whole purpose of this system is to create good population. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, when women are polluted, the populace is Varna Sankara, and when the Varna Sankara population increases, the situation of the entire world becomes hellish. Therefore, all the Vedic literatures strongly warn against creating Varna Sankara population. When there is Varna Sankara population, the people cannot be properly controlled for peace and prosperity regardless of great legislative assemblies, parliaments, and similar bodies. Samskara yatra vichina sadvijojo jagadayam ijadeyana danani vihitani vijamanan janma karma padatanam kriyascha shramachodita. Those who have been reformed by the Garbhadan ceremony and other prescribed reformatory methods performed with Vedic mantras and without interruption, and who have been approved by the Lord Brahma are Dvijas or twice born. Such Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas purified by their family traditions and by their behavior should worship the Lord, study the Vedas, and give charity. In this system, they should follow the principles of the four ashramas: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. Utai Mahat Piriyama Puravibhur Nirmaikshadiyad Mushupurusha Munkte Gunan Sadosya Suddhasatmakavan Krishishta Bhagavan Vacham Simei. So this is a very important canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, the science of God, and these are very important statements by Narad Muni and Srila Prabhupada. We should say the most important statements because they describe the perfect society, and this is what was Srila Prabhupada's ambition in creating ISKCON, so that Krishna Consciousness would help to create the perfect society. As he was mentioning many times, that society has everything nowadays, but there is no head. There is no proper leadership in this society, and of course, the natural leader of all the living entities is the Supreme Lord, and so there should be leaders in the society who represent the Supreme Lord, especially Brahmanas. And this was very clearly Srila Prabhupada's intention to create Brahminical class who would help to reform the society, to make it perfect. Sometimes Krishna consciousness is perceived by some, even devotees, as another religious organization. Of course, we have certain religious functions, but nevertheless, if we look attentively at the very first purpose of ISKCON, it is very social by nature. And it is the same purpose Srila Prabhupada had earlier on when he created the League of Devotees in Jhansi. He brought the same purpose when he started his movement in America. And this purpose is to systematically propagate the spiritual knowledge to the society at large and train all people in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and achieve real unity and peace in the world. Pretty much what he also mentions here in the purport. He says that when there is Varna Sankara population, the people cannot be properly controlled for peace and prosperity regardless of great legislative assemblies, parliaments, and similar bodies. So it's very, very obvious that Srila Prabhupada had this concern about the state of affairs in the whole world, and he wanted devotees to contribute to the positive changes. And so this is the responsibility we have from our founder Acharya, and this is why we're getting so much mercy in Krishna consciousness. And I'm quite sure that all the devotees are appreciating the unlimited mercy we're getting by coming in touch with Krishna. How many of you are feeling blessed by being in Krishna consciousness? Okay. Yeah. We've got so many benefits, starting with spiritual knowledge and understanding the aim of life and wonderful association with devotees and so many other things. And Krishna's care in so many respects. I'm sure all of you have noticed that since you started chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna is reciprocating, and devotees are constantly sharing how much mercy they're getting from practicing this process. Of course, we're sometimes getting so much mercy that the danger is that we become very familiar. We get used to getting a lot of mercy, and then we may forget about our responsibility of sharing that mercy with others. But this knowledge is very important because perfect spiritual culture in its original term is called Sanskriti. And still today this word is quite widely used in India. And the word Sanskrit is also connected to that. And the first word of this verse, Samskara, is also connected to the same idea. Sam means complete, and kara, kriti, means activity. So activity which brings to a perfection, which gives the desired result. And the first samskara, which is recommended out of 10 Vedic samskaras, is Garbhadan Samskara. And Srila Prabhupada mentions because this culture is not followed, because mostly people, they are not even aware of this culture. That is why we get the result of Varna Sankara, which was Arjuna's concern in the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita. He says that if there is no dharma, then the result will be Varna Sankara, starting from text 40. he says, Adharma bibhavat Krishna pradushyanti kulastriya strishu dushtashu varshniya jayate varna sankara. Sankaro narakayeva kulagnanam kulasya cha patanti pitaro hesham luptopindodaka kriya. Srila Jayadvaita Mara just gave me a wonderful gift, the Bhagavad Gita, Sanskrit and Roman transliteration, very valuable gift, and so I decided to use it immediately for the class. Thank you. So these two verses are Arjuna's concern about Varna Sankara. If there is no dharma, if there is adharma, if the basis of proper culture and proper conduct are destroyed in the society together with the destruction of elders, then the next result that Kulastriya, the woman population will become pradushyanti, will degrade. And then what will happen? Strishudushtashu varshneya, that the degraded women will produce Varna Sankara, unwanted progeny, unwanted population. And then what will happen? Sankaro narakaiva, that this population will create narakaiva, the hellish situation. And we can see so many hellish events happening on the planet. So much degradation from the materialistic side, and so much religious fanaticism resulting in terrorist activities from the religious side. And this is really hellish. And so Sankaro Narakayava, this is what's happening, that mostly you can see that these people who create this, who cause these horrible atrocities, they come from this kind of background. They are Varna Sankara people. Those whom even their own parents didn't want. And so they were raised without any love, without any care. And so that's why they were raised with hate. And this is what they can share with others, hate. And Kulagnanam Kulasyacha, naturally, all the basis of family tradition will become destroyed. And Patanti Pitarohesham Luptopindodaka Kriya, that the descendants of such families, they will stop performing their duties, offering their oblations to the forefathers, etc. So they will just, ignore all the traditions, and naturally everything will degrade, everyone will degrade, everyone will go down as a result. So this is what we see in the world, and Srila Prabhupada expected devotees to bring a positive alternative. Because every single trouble is there in the world and in our lives only because there is no positive alternative. And what is the positive alternative? It's spiritual culture. Srila Prabhupada was also mentioning that Krishna consciousness will conquer the world. Some people already have doubts about it, that Krishna consciousness will ever conquer the world, but Srila Prabhupada predicted that, and we know whatever great Acharya predicted will happen. But how Krishna consciousness will conquer the world? He said with two things. One is education, and the other one is culture. And we can understand that education means theoretical knowledge, and culture means applied knowledge. Knowledge applied in practical life. And this is one important point of the Vedic knowledge which Srila Prabhupada was stressing, and naturally he expected devotees to apply it in life, and that is performance of samskaras, of reformatory ceremonies, beginning with Garbhadhana Samskara. Garbha means womb and dhana means wealth. So this is the ceremony which ensures the birth of the best progeny. And there are descriptions. Srila Prabhupada was mentioning that consciousness is important at the time of conception, and he was mentioning chanting 50 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Of course, one devotee commented that 50 rounds of Nama Parada will not be enough. Of course, if you chant any rounds, it's better than not chanting any rounds, because if the child is conceived without any devotional activities, that means the child will be non-devotee as a result. But if someone chanted offensive japa, then yes, as a result, child will become a devotee. But what kind of a devotee child will be? One who is very prone to commit 10 offenses. So I'm not sure if this is a desired result, to have a child who disregards Guru, Sadha and Shastra, has a lot of material desires, etc. That's also not the best kind of child. That's why it's really important to understand that consciousness. Jai Shri Shri Gaur Shri Shri Krishna Balaram Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar Ki Jai. Consciousness, or Krishna consciousness, this is the most important factor. And therefore, the goal has to be focused on. Bhaktivedipurna Maharaj very interestingly explains that whatever we focus on, this is what we get. Like Bhagavad Gita explains, yam yam vapi smaran bhavante jatante kalevaram, that whatever our consciousness is focused at the moment of death, this exact situation we are getting in our next life. So this is how the laws of karma are working. From subtle, it goes into the gross creation. So whatever our mind is focused on, this kind of destination we are getting. And so it's really important to understand that the purpose of Garbhadhan Samskara is to be focused at the time of conception on the result parents want to get, which is a perfectly Krishna conscious child. And the other important factor is the time of conception. So time and consciousness. There are auspicious and there are inauspicious times for the conception, and that's also illustrated in this story. Actually, this story, which is described in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, is really important for us. It's very interesting that mostly each canto of Srimad Bhagavatam contains so many different stories. But the 7th canto is given so much attention to a single story of leading to the appearance of Nrsingadev, because this story is really important, because it illustrates these important points of consciousness and the results of consciousness in one's life. And this story actually started few cantos earlier in the 3rd canto, how Hiranyakashipu was born. And we understand And this is a perfect illustration of what's happening if the consciousness of the parents at the time of conception is wrong. And the conception is happening at the wrong time also. We can understand that Kashyapa was basically seduced by his wife, Diti, who was somehow heavily afflicted by lust, and then she encouraged Kashyapa Muni to have union with her at the wrong time. And despite of Kashyapa Muni trying to reason with her, telling that this is not the good time at all, and still she was pushing, and he basically agreed. And so it's explained that she was influenced by Kashipu. No, actually, her motivation, she wanted to have a child. And because the other wife of Kashyapa Muni, Diti, already had children, and Aditi already had children, and so Diti, she wanted to have children as well. And for her, it was so urgent that she didn't even want to wait a few more minutes. She wanted the child as soon as possible because she wanted prestige of having children. And so prestige is associated with gross sexual desires, such as position, fame, wealth. So it can be expressed with the word hiranya. And she influenced her husband, and she made him lusty, Kashipu. And so the combination of the consciousness of father and mother created Hiranyakashipu. And then in here, in the 7th canto, it's been described how Prahlad Mara, the great devotee, was born from such a demoniac father as Hiranyakashipu. And the explanation of this amazing episode is given in Nrisimha Purana, wherein it's been described how Hiranyakashipu, desiring to attain immortality and great powers, went to the mountains to perform his austerities. And of course, the entire universe knew that if such a demon would achieve great results, then he will create havoc in the whole universe, which actually did happen. And so it's been described that two friends, Narad Muni and Parvat Muni, decided to disrupt Hiranyakashipu's austerities. And so they went to the place in the mountains where Hiranyakashipu was performing his austerities, and they took shapes of the sparrows, and they landed at the branch of a tree next to Hiranyakashipu, and they started chirping at the top of their voices, but because these were not ordinary sparrows, because these were great devotees of the Lord, they started chirping the holy names of the Lord, Narayan, Vishnu. And of course, for Hiranyakashipu, this was the worst thing, right? He is trying to focus on his demoniac goal of becoming immortal and the most powerful. And of course, his sworn enemy is the Supreme Lord himself. Vishnu or Hari or Narayan, and then these sparrows are chirping the names of his worst enemy, so he cannot concentrate. And so Hiranyakashipu is, glancing at who is doing that, and his glance is so powerful he can burn anyone with his glance. But these two sparrows, they fly a little higher, go higher in the branches, and continue chirping the holy names. And so the whole austerity of Hiranyakashipu was spoiled. So he couldn't concentrate anymore, so he had to go home and engage himself in heavy sense gratification to forget the horrible experience of hearing the holy names of the Lord. And so, no matter what he was doing, he couldn't forget. But then he thought, okay, let me try the ultimate sense gratification. Let me try to, relieve myself with sex. And so he got his wife involved, and while trying to enjoy with her, somehow it just happened so. At the moment of conception, he remembered what happened to him. He remembered those sparrows chanting the holy names of the Lord. And so he was thinking about the sparrows who were the greatest devotees of the Supreme Lord, Parvata Muni and Narada Muni, and thinking, remembering the chanting of the holy names. And so, as a result, Prahlad Maharaj was born. Great devotee, and of course, Prahlad Maharaj benefited even Hiranyakashipu despite of him being the great demon. So these are very interesting stories in scriptures which illustrate how powerful consciousness is. Even if someone has a position of a very exalted devotee of the Lord, but if someone's consciousness is material, at the moment of conception, one will get very materialistic progeny. And at the same time, even if someone is a great demon, but somehow by some great fortunate accident, one will happen to be Krishna conscious at that time of conception, one can get a great devotee as one's child. So this is how powerful the Garbhadan Samskara is, and this is why Srila Prabhupada was stressing that it's really important for the human society to follow these reformatory methods. And I remember one time I was traveling on a train in Russia, and originally I'm from Russia, and I happened to talk to one very old lady who was working at the family planning institution for the Russian government. And she explained what that family planning institution was. Actually, historically, the communist Russian government decided to get rid of all the people who have any type of leadership capacity in order to eliminate all competition. So systematically they were putting in jails and also killing all the intelligentsia of the country. Of course, many of them escaped, fled to other countries because of such a heavy prosecution. And basically all the people of quality were systematically eliminated, because the idea was that everyone should be on equal level, and so if we destroy all the potential leaders, then everyone will be equally Shudra-like, and it will be really easily to manipulate this population. So that was their plan. But after they executed their plan, they realized that they're actually lacking leaders. They still need leaders. And they started thinking, how do we get leaders now? What to do? How do we make sure that, at least the children born of our people will have some leadership qualities? And they have done great research looking for all possible options, and actually the best one they found was in Vedas. And she actually explained, it was mind-blowing. Lady who has nothing to do with Krishna consciousness, who was working for the government agency, she said, in Indian old texts we found that procedure which helps to tune in consciousness in such a way that you can program the birth of good children. And I realized she was talking about Garbhadan Samskara. This is really amazing. So after searching through all the sources of knowledge throughout the whole planet, the best and possibly the only one they came up with was Garbhadan Samskara, to recreate good population. And so we can see a very, very few, very rare examples of people who were born according to these principles of culture, of Vedic culture. Of course, in India, you can see this kind of people. In some places, I had some experiences of someone who was born in this kind of cultured families, and these are amazing personalities in every single respect. Amazingly intelligent, amazingly capable, having all the best qualities we can ever imagine, and on the top of that, being very, very simple, humble, and having amazing service attitude. And so this kind of combination of best qualities and humility and service attitude just blows the mind. I had experience of getting panchakarma treatment with one doctor, and he was like PhD in medical science, being 24 years of age to start with, qualified computer engineer, knowing Sanskrit better than English, and his English was perfect, knowing astrology, Vastu, yoga, you name it. He knew everything. And he was so smart that older doctors were always coming to him for advice on Ayurveda, and he would quote like pages of Charaka Samhita by heart. And I was like, wow, such a young man and having such a quality. And I was asking him, about his family, and he said, yeah, I was born in Sri Vaishnava family, and yes, we're worshipping Lord Balaji, that their family deity was Balaji. And he was looking at me and he said, but you are not Indian. That this man didn't know anything about ISKCON. He said, you are not Indian, but you are dressed in a devotee clothes, you dressed like that, and you also have tilak, and you are following this culture. So how did you come across this? So I had to tell him about Srila Prabhupada and preaching in the West. He was very surprised. He said, it's amazing. One elderly man changed so many people, made so many people follow Vaishnava culture. And I said, yeah. And he was so impressed immediately. I said, I could bring you some of Prabhupada's books in English, And he said, oh yes, of course, I would love to read what he wrote. You know, if he had so much power to change people all over the world, I want to know what he wrote. And I brought him Bhagavad Gita and a few other books as a gift. It's always good to make friends with your doctor. And I'm giving these books as a gift, and of course, these books are not expensive at all. And he said, okay, thank you, but tell me, what shall I pay you for the books? I said, don't worry, it's a gift. These books are not expensive. And he said, no, that I still have to pay you something. I said, no, it's fine. And then he looks at me with tears in his eyes, and he says, you don't understand that in our tradition, if someone gives you a scripture, then this person is a guru, and we have to give guru dakshina. And I'm like really embarrassed, you know, because he's way more, like thousands of times more qualified than me, and he's calling me guru. And I'm saying, no, don't worry about it. So I refused, but then he said, I would have to reciprocate with you one way or the other. And so he gives me all this, you know, long and expensive treatment, and at the end I'm going to pay the bill, and I'm told that my bill is paid by my doctor, which is quite substantial amount of money. I'm coming back to him, I'm saying, why did you do that? He said, I had to reciprocate with you, so this was the only opportunity you gave me. And so, anyway, there are many more things. He invited us to his house, and we have seen where these kind of children are coming from, because, you know, they've been Vaishnavas for many, many generations, and his father is famous Sanskrit scholar, traveled all over the world and taught in universities, and his great-grandfather is famous astrologer all over India. Many people study using his textbooks, etc., etc. And we had prasadam. You know, they made a feast for us, and I had the foolishness to ask, is this all prasadam? And the mother was so offended, she said, in our house for, you know, as many generations as we know, no one ever took anything which was not prasadam. All the food is offered to the family deity, etc. And so, this kind of experiences are very impressive. But this is what Srila Prabhupada was referring to, that we cannot really impress people with hypothetical philosophy. What really would impress people is example. And so that's why Srila Prabhupada wanted devotees to be exemplary in all regards. And of course, we can create best progeny by following Garbhadan Samskara, but we can say, if we ourselves were not that lucky to be born in such a family and not purified by the samskaras, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Vaishnavas have 5 Vaishnava Samskaras, which are as powerful as 10 Vedic Samskaras, because despite of taking physical birth in these advantageous circumstances, we can take advantage of our spiritual birth and become reformed in our consciousness. And he describes that these 5 Vaishnava Samskaras are given at the time of initiation, which is like second birth, and 3 are given at the time of the first initiation. These samskaras are Urdhva Pundra, which means upward sign, Tilak. It's compulsory for all initiated devotees to wear tilak. This is one thing. For purifying our consciousness. This is one blessing we got at the time of initiation. Another one is nama, holy name. One's name is changed into spiritual name at the time of initiation, and one is also getting the blessing from the spiritual master, Vaishnavas, and the Supreme Lord himself to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And this is, of course, the most powerful samskara we get at the time of initiation. And third one is called tapa, which means austerity. And it's interesting that the symbol of austerity is, these are the neck beads we are wearing. Some devotees think that if neck beads symbolize austerity, maybe I should make them really tight, strangling me. But this is not the idea. Why the neck beads, they're actually called kantimala. So the kanti is the place at the bottom of the throat. So this is where the neck beads supposed to be. It is the symbol of austerity because Srila Prabhupada was mentioning that neck beads are like dog's collar. So neck beads symbolize that we do not belong to ourselves anymore. We belong to our spiritual master. And the greatest austerity ever in one's life is to strictly abide by the orders of one's spiritual master. That's the real austerity. We don't have to concoct any other austerities. If we strictly follow our spiritual master's order, Srila Prabhupada's and his representatives' order, then this is the topmost austerity. And 2 additional samskaras are given at the time of the second initiation, and these are mantra, specifically referring to Gayatri mantra, which helps one to establish a personal relationship with the Supreme Lord, and yaga, which is the process of deity worship, and specifically this is the advantage of having second initiation, Brahminical initiation, that one gets an opportunity to be involved in deity worship. And so by these 5 samskaras one can get all the benefits one can normally get only by following the 10 or going through the 10 Vedic samskaras. And so Krishna consciousness has all the opportunities for us to reform and to become purified regardless of our birth and disadvantages, and this is what Srila Prabhupada expected, that we change ourselves and change the world into being Krishna conscious place. Hare Krishna. Thank you.